Queens. Welcome to the Reality Queens podcast, where your favorite girls, me and Jen, talk with you every week, dishing the gossip about reality TV. I am Rachel Reilly Viegas, joined by my beautiful and amazing co-host.
Hi, I'm Jenn Hoffman, and we are here to bring you the latest stuff with the Love is Blind craziness, a little bit Golden Bachelorette, and maybe some more. So we could just dive in and get right to it because there was a lot of reality TV this week.
So much. Okay, we have to start with Golden Bachelorette because Love is Blind is like a whole nother thing. But the Golden Bachelorette this week, our girl Joan goes to Tahiti. She's doing fantasy suites, but without all the fantasy, guys. Like, don't get excited. There's no beds in the room. There will be no hanky panky. Nothing is going to happen. She's already announced that numerous times. Jen, how do you feel about this? Do you think it needs to be announced on a show like The Bachelor?
I think that they did it intentionally because that stirred up
Yeah.
a million different articles about it, and it's the first time it's ever happened. And it spawned off not just articles about not having a fantasy suite, but also about age and like it just hit so many different demographics and so
Yeah.
many different things. And I believe it was genuinely her decision, but I think that
Mhm.
the producers were like, ooh, because then that gave them like another huge news cycle of things to talk about and debate and discuss.
100%. And I feel that this is not just a generational thing where we keep reading in all these articles. Is it a generational thing? I think it's just like a human choice. Like, and it's none of our business really if she wants to like have a fantasy suite. I know it's the show and it's the show that we're watching, but really all these bachelor, junior bachelors, golden bachelors, whatever. I mean, the fantasy suite, it is like none of our business what goes on
Yeah,
there.
I agree.
um, at the end of the day, so I kind of feel like I love Joan that she announced this, and I totally agree with you. It did stir up so much of a talk, and I mean, we're still talking about it, right?
Right.
Like it's such a thing that like it's nobody's business, but we all want to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
It's like,
besides the point is that yes, physical chemistry, you need to kind of see if that's happening. And they
mhm.
did not get a lot of time with each other, but you can know if you're attracted to somebody physically by being around
Yes,
them. And if it's supposed to be this thing where it's like the love of your life, like, look, not every time the first time you like have intimate relations with somebody is it like amazing and whatever. Sometimes it is what
yes.
it is and like it builds anyway. So it's not like it takes anything away from it by being like, oh, we did it, because like if you're going to stay with that person or if you're simply going to reject, if somebody was super awkward, then maybe I would get it, or you were turned off or something was really weird.
Right.
Like it just doesn't seem like at this point when you're choosing like a fiance or as opposed to an engagement or want a long-term marriage, no matter what age it is, that
Yeah.
by that element alone you wouldn't have already had the ick or something. And if it's going to happen, it's going to
Yes.
happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, this is not Love Island. Again, we've said this all the time. I just feel like in this series, like, yeah, it is not, you can literally feel physical chemistry from someone by being in like the same space as them. You know, if you are attracted to them and you want something, and if it's going to be something that you're really excited about. So it's kind of like, I agree. I don't think you need to have the physical chemistry to figure out if this person, especially, I feel like they were talking about how like sex is so different, like in your 20s, your 30s, like every generation is different. But like in this age bracket, it's more about the intimate connection with the person. And
Right.
so you don't need to have sex, in a fantasy suite with all that pressure and cameras and everything and it doesn't have to be broadcast across the United States,
Right.
just to have this intimate relationship with them. And
Right.
I like that. Like, again, if you want to watch the hanky panky, go watch Love Island or Love is Blind. God,
Yeah.
get plenty of that. But I mean, I like it. I respect her decision. So now let's talk about the actual chemistry, because girl, did you feel like the guy and Joan chemistry was just off this week?
I felt like it always is, and I feel like it's because
Yeah.
he's like a little bit stiff and
Like
she wants to like him
awkward.
more than she does. So you can kind
Yes.
of tell when he's like doing his like I'm falling for you and I think we've gotten closer and she's like I can agree, but she doesn't reaffirm
Yeah.
that she's falling for him and it's like this stiffness between the two of us, but between the two of them that's it just seems weird and like while they're both saying that they've progressed and gotten closer it still feels like there's not like an innate natural just that
No.
energy chemistry between two people that seems like so automatic and easy.
Yes, I totally agree. And I also kind of I feel like he doesn't know that.
Yeah,
Like I feel like when I watch her talk to him and they do like the pan in on her face and she's like, "Yes." It's like she's thinking about how to say something. And
yeah,
then with him, it's like very mechanical. Like I am very into you. It almost makes me feel like I could see this because he is that medical professional. They train you to like almost put your emotions to the side because you have to be like
he's an
ER doctor
ER.
ready.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's watched
exactly. You
Netflix
have to be,
ER. So right,
yeah.
yeah,
So it's almost like I wonder if that's just like his brain operates in that way. But it feels very with her where it almost is like she's trying to think about how to say an emotion so that it sounds like good for TV, kind of, which is kind of
yeah.
bad to say, but I don't know. I just didn't think that I could see their date was like she had fun. They looked like they both had fun and like they're very friendly and you know, they have like some like smooches, but they're not like kisses and they're not like,
Yes,
it doesn't feel like someone that you're about to get married to.
yes, it's
Whereas with Chalk,
yeah, Chuck and Pascal, they both
and
had a
oh
lot
God,
more
and I know.
intimacy and a lot more chemistry. And I think
Yes.
he was much more attracted to both of them, and the energy was just better with the two of
Yeah.
them. We can get into what ends up happening with them and everything, but like for Guy right now, I think maybe and we could be completely wrong or I could be completely wrong, but because Chop would be so obvious because it seemed like they
Yeah.
were like pretty quickly like
Oh,
the date was
yeah.
done that the Guy thing like Pascal I genuinely think that she really liked and that was keeping her from
Hmm.
full on Chalk, but the Guy thing was kind of like to have another person there in case it doesn't work out and also just to make you know now that it's not completely just Chalk.
Well,
It seems that way
yeah.
to
100%. I mean, he has to be there. He's the Jordan of the Chicago. We're in Chicago. We might as well have another Chicago guy.
me. Yeah,
Like, I
yeah.
mean, it's kind of like that's how I feel. But then when I see her with Chalk on this date, like they are laughing, they're looking both in each other's eyes.
Mhm.
Like it looks like the smiles are very like flirty and intimate smiles. Like you could just tell they're like almost an intimate smile. And then like I know there's no fantasy suite, but like Chalk kind of like alluded to something,
Yeah, it implied
something.
that they did have some sort of intimacy, but look, just because there's a
Yeah,
bed and couches doesn't mean that something didn't happen, or maybe they just like
right.
made out all night or something, and like,
Yeah.
I love that for them if they did.
Yes, me too. And I love that I feel like it makes me like feel that they are both that at that point like physically and then like emotionally and they both have like a very deep connection. I know like I hate with the editing and I do think that this is the fault of the way that they're telling the story where they just tell us the emotions instead of showing us. And
Sure.
I do wish that we saw more like instead of just them saying we're falling for each other and this is why we have such a great connection. I do want to see more of that, but I feel like we get to kind of explore this a little bit more on a deeper level in this like date with her and Chalk this week and like they're just having so much fun and it feels like I mean I do find that Chalk sometimes is like very much possessive of Joan where he feels like that's his person. I get that vibe. Um
Yeah.
also, but I don't mind it cuz like I couldn't imagine being on a dating show like that. I think I would probably be kind of possessive. Like that's my person. Like I know she has to go on other dates, but like I don't want her to, you know?
Yeah. Well,
I think it has to be so hard, especially at this stage.
yes. Well, Pascal
I
did
don't know,
talk.
what do you think about the two of them?
Well, okay. So Pascal did talk about the chalk situation in an interview that he gave. He's given a bunch of interviews.
Oh,
Pascal's been very,
okay.
very vocal. And he said that he was a little bit that the men at the group date at bowling were a little bit annoyed by
Yeah.
Chuck, by him, trying to monopolize her, and that he alludes
Oh,
to something that like Chuck. And then okay, so I'll give you two separate parts. He says the group date, and then he
yeah.
also says when the guys were together, that Chuck would talk about Joan like essentially like she was already his, and that he would be actively asking where is she, what is she doing, was asking the
Oh,
side of the side, which side of the bed do you sleep on, like, which is fine, that's just an assumption we're going to be together. I think that's harmless.
mm,
But Pascal
yeah.
said that Chuck it was almost stalker like behavior, and it really freaked him out and turned him off, not just to Chuck but like the process a bit. Pascal said that, and
Okay.
the other men felt it too. According to Pascal, he said it's been during the bowling date. He says that you don't we don't see it as much as it was really happening, but you can see there's a hint of it, and they do talk about it. They say Chuck's sitting right next to her before that the rose ceremony after it. And he said that it was, irritating. But one interesting thing he says is that um, he says we could all see through it, and I think Joan's smart enough to see it too. So I don't know what that means. I don't know if he's
What does
smart
that
enough to
mean?
see that like Chalk's like stalker crazy or just creepy or annoying, or if he just like, or I don't know what Pascal implied by that,
Well, but
but
because I kind of want to take it as like the devil's advocate. I love Pascal. He is one of my
yes,
favorites. But like, I'm gonna take a devil's advocate here, Chuck. Or sorry, Pascal. Is Chalk crazy about Joan? And is he like totally in love with her, head over heels? And that is a normal male reaction
yeah,
when you're dating someone to like go sit by them and want to talk to them. And like, but Pascal is the guy that's like, you know, he is the, what do we call those, free spirits?
sort of,
He's
but
like,
he admitted that. So it's weird because on one hand, he said that that was a bit much coming from Chalk, but then he also said he had trouble even forming that connection and getting deeper with her. And he's very specific. He says, we go on this great date, we have this great time, I'm starting to feel connected to her. And then she's off on a date with, I think it was John. And he's like,
yeah,
and that felt so strange to me that how could you possibly get there? So it's like on one hand, he's saying that like when you don't have like feel like you have maybe not possession, but like that person's complete attention, and you're not able to assert yourself like, no, this is my person, that you can't even form the connection in the first place. But at the same time, he was
yeah,
saying like Chuck was overdoing it and making it a problem. And I'm not saying it's hypocritical because I can see both, two things can be true at once. He could have had trouble
hmm,
getting there because he's like, this just feels so weird and forced, and like what they put us together and they send us on this trip, the longest one of anybody. We're actually on vacation, we're in Vegas, and then she has a date with somebody the next day, and I'm supposed to be developing feelings for her rather than being like, this is weird. But like I
well,
do
the whole
yeah,
experience in general is weird for them. And I understand what he's saying because, like, yeah, in a normal, you go on a great date to Vegas, you fly on a private jet, you have that like romantic high, and then someone like is like, oh, and now she's going out with your friend. It's
yeah,
like, well, it is a weird
it's weird.
experience, which maybe Chalk can't put that aside.
I was going to say it supports you what you said
Yeah,
about talk about it being a natural
yeah,
reaction, that if you truly believe you have this connection with this person and this is your person, then you are going to remain actively involved even when it's not your dates and not whatever, because you're asserting,
yeah.
you're being like, and that's very reassuring to Joan. And it comes across because Joan even says that she feels the safest, the most comfortable, like with Chalk's the most committed, that he's in it, that, he will commit to her. He'd be the one that really wouldn't just like surprise her at the end or leave her. So, whatever, even if it's maybe more than we've previously seen, or if Chalk is doing that, it is
Hmm.
working, and it seems to be coming from a genuine place of being like, for screw this, I'm not going to deal with this weird like one night she's yours and you have this like, I have such a deep connection, and the next day she's supposed to repeat it. I'm going to insert myself like, nope, I'm here. And so I'm not upset with
Yeah.
about it. I just thought it was interesting that like I was like, is this stalkerish or is this normal? And I realized this whole situation isn't normal, so there is no normal.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of what I feel like too. It's like, while on one hand, Pascal's like he's continuously like, always has an eye on Joan to see what she's doing. That would be weird in a normal situation where
Yeah,
you're like at a party with someone. But even look, listen, even at a party, even if Brendan and I go to a club or a party or an event together, he always has one eye on me. And same thing with me. I always have like one eye on him. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's not like a stalkerish weird thing. It's just like
yeah.
a relationship
That is
thing.
a
Like,
total normal thing when you're in a
yeah,
genuine relationship. And I
yeah,
will say with dating men, if like sometimes you can go off and do your own thing and not have an eye on each other just because you're talking in a group or
right.
whatever. But if the most of the night that you spend at a party, at an event, at a friend's thing, you're not having some sort of connection, eye on each other, like whatever, to me, that signals that's not the norm for when people are truly
Yeah,
connected. And that's like something that I don't like and don't want in a relationship. I would much rather because it's not out of jealousy or worrying what they do. It's because you genuinely just feel that wherever they go, you kind of have the eye on them and that connection.
yeah.
So it
It's
makes
like
sense.
an electricity. Like, because they're also like your person and you want to be with them, you want to spend time with them. And I think it's like two part because if I saw Brendan at a party talking to another girl, like, sure, not every girl, I'm not going to be like, oh, what is that? But if I see him like talking to another girl a lot, which in The Bachelorette, you're seeing Joan is flirting with Pascal or Joan is, and maybe Pascal has that vibe from Chalk because Chalk has the vibe from Pascal that Joan clearly is like into Pascal, So
Yeah,
maybe that's where that vibe is coming from
yeah,
because it's like sure if I am Rachel and Brendan is Joan and then I'm seeing him flirt with like this other person who is amazing and they clearly have some sort of like chemistry, I
yeah.
would get jealous. That's just a
Yeah. Well,
normal
and
human
it's not
reaction.
even chemistry. There's talking for a very, very long time. Look, I've personally
Yeah.
been through this, and it's a personal thing even right now, so I won't get into it. But like, I think it's absurd to think that you can talk to even if it's people that you've known since high school or your friends or whatever and be at a party and spend all night talking to like other girls for like an hour, even 40 minutes, even a half hour without your girlfriend right there with you, without putting your arm out, without checking in, without whatever. So I
Yeah.
can imagine how it's magnified on like a show like this where you don't know, where that
Hmm.
person even is. They're not even in the same room
Yeah.
as you. It's like, no, no.
And you don't know what's going through their head because you don't see them and you don't get to talk to
Yeah. I'm like,
them.
B, what do you
Like,
need? My daughter's asking me, said, Beatrix, what are you asking
oh.
for? Yes. Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to ask me about that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh.
She went to get some Halloween candy, but she knows she's supposed to
Oh,
ask.
yeah.
She has another one, but I told her she can. I basically was like, have some Halloween candy because you need
Yeah.
to record your Halloween. Great moment there. Uh,
I love it.
yeah. So
Okay,
then,
well, oh, go ahead. Yeah, I was going to say we need to talk about
yeah,
Pascal. Speaking
Pascal.
of Pascal, first of all, I fell more in love with him to this episode
Yeah.
because of his honesty.
Yes.
And I just think there is something special and magnetic about him. And by the way, I thought that even sent you the clip of the breakup where I thought like that was his application to be the Golden Bachelor, in my opinion. Um, because I'm like, dude, the fact he is so good when he's just like they're sitting there and he's like, well, what is it? Why am I here? Like, what is
Yeah.
it about me? And I was like, oh my gosh, like Joan's the Golden Bachelorette. And like all the other guys are like, let me tell you how great you are. And then he's like, but why? Like, what is it that you're seeing in me? Like, he knows it's a two-way street. Like, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, I
And
think he also picked up on something because first you get him having this, deep talk where he's
oh,
saying
yeah, yeah.
everyone thinks he's just all about money and cars and stuff like that, but
Yep.
that he starts to tear up and he said he had a very rough childhood, very rough bringing up, came from nothing, built himself up, and that nobody knows what he's been through. So, and that he has much deeper feelings and much more connections and had a horrible time in his last relationship with letting go of a breakup. So this is not just this what we first thought, like this jet setting guy who's all over the place. Like he says, yes, I enjoy those things because I worked very hard to earn them and I like them. But there's a deeper thing to me, not just the adventure, not just the cars, not just, travel and vacation and stuff. Like I have been through so much and I need someone who understands that and I know what I've been through. And he said that, and then what we were talking about, how we don't think he Netflix and chills. He brought up, I want someone who
Yeah.
I can come home to at the end of the day and shed all that. Then he goes on this date with Joan where he says, what do you like about me? And she says, besides they remind me of John, which is fine. She goes, his adventure. And then she brings up the cars and this and this. And you can see
Yeah.
him just fall. Like that is
Yeah.
not what he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear maybe like, yes, adventure, excitement, but wanted to hear that she wanted to know him deeper and that there was more to
Hmm.
it besides the image of Pascal, because he's trying to tell us that like there's more to me. And this person hasn't even bothered really to scratch the surface of that. Instead, has just become excited by the image. But I'm giving her all the right. When he brought her to my home, I told her how important family is to me and how I love to
Hmm.
spend time with them. He hasn't portrayed himself as just jet setting, just whatever. He told her he had a very difficult breakup that was extremely hard on him, and that his walls aren't down because he was hurt. And that exactly what you're saying. It's like how the rest of them are all fawning over her. He kind of turns the interview around on her, like, well, what about me? And then when
Yeah.
her answer is surface, which is funny, ironic that her answer is more
Yeah.
surface when she's been upset by other people's surface stuff, which is rightfully so. But when the answer's surface, you can tell the walls go up and he completely distances himself. Then they throw him into the most intimate ceremony, this bonding ceremony.
I know.
Would have been interesting to see Guy if he was as mechanical, and would have just totally been a giveaway for chalk because they probably would have just gotten married at the bonding ceremony. But then after Pascal says
Hmm.
he's very sensitive to this, he wants to be careful. He says he's not there yet. And then she dismisses those things that he has said and makes him just fun guy. They put him in the most intimate thing that he said he wasn't ready for, but wanted to be ready for. But after getting that answer from Joan about just the fun
Yeah.
stuff, and we're not digging deeper, that freaks him out. And he's like, no, 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 no. This is like way too much. Like it's just forced. And basically is like, get the cameras away from me. No, I don't have the same feelings. And in an interview, he said that the production was asking him to say, I'm not in love with you, I don't love you, and use the L word. And he said he didn't want you because that was just cruel and inappropriate, because they weren't trying to force anyone else really to say love. Everyone else is also, like you pointed out earlier in this
Yeah.
discussion, people are saying I'm developing deeper feelings, I'm this and that. And he said he didn't want to say something as harsh as like, I'm just not in love with you, because it wasn't something they were A, asking of other people, and B, he thought it was almost inappropriate to ask and would have been something to create drama and almost a rudeness to say, I'm not in love with you, when she didn't say I love you to him. So those little peek
Right.
behind the curtain that he said that they were, we don't know if they were encouraging other people, but he felt very pushed that they were trying to get him, not just at first trying to get him to say whether he did or didn't, but then when he left, pushing that, he said that's why he told the cameras to get away from his face, because they tried to interview him and say, tell Joan you're not in love with her, like literally we're telling him to say that. And he was like, no, because that was not even the expectation. At this point the expectation is, are we a match? Did we get to know each other? Are we falling? Is this a possibility? And you want me to say something to almost, he didn't use the word villain, but I take it like make him the villain of the season, who
That's
says,
what I take it as, if from hearing about this interview, because we know how production is and we know how it works. And it's almost like they wanted that soundbite to be like, I'm not in love with you. Because then they can use that soundbite for everything and it ends up everywhere.
yep.
When I think his real truth behind this whole message was like, I don't see myself getting there because I can't, like this experience doesn't make me feel like I can get there. And then I read that interview about him saying that he doesn't think he wants someone that basically in Chicago, right? Basically that he can wake up with every morning, that is going to be there. And he doesn't want to have someone that is across the country. So I do respect that from him, and that he was so honest
Mm-hmm.
about it, because it's like, yeah, it's true. It's like, well, how do you make it work? And you think in your head, I think in my fantasy, because I'm like a Disney character, that oh, it's gonna be fine. They'll see each
Mhm.
other when they see each other. They'll be snowbirds together and they'll go on trips together. And it's like, but maybe at the end of the day, like it isn't enough. Like I couldn't imagine not do even without kids, like not doing every day with the person that you're supposed to, who's your person, right? Like if
Yes,
you
I feel the
if you
same way.
can't wake up with them, what is the point?
I mean, I've been in a long distance relationship now for
Yeah.
almost 3 years, and it's very challenging, and it's the antithesis of what I think a relationship that's going to mature and become something is. That is waking up every day. That is doing the little things
Hmm.
together. That is not just, and in my situation, it's like, I live here because I have a child and I have to, and her dad's here and stuff. So not to get too much deep into me, but the toll it takes, it does make you feel more separate. You don't feel as
Yeah.
united. You don't feel as the daily intimacy and doing the little things together are the big things together. So it can be so challenging. So I understand why he's like, I don't want that. He's like, I have a life and a business in Chicago, and I'm not
Hmm.
going to just leave that. And he's like, and I don't expect her to leave her family either. He said, so I don't understand how anybody, and he made a very good point. He said, in your 20s, if you don't know where you're going to live yet, and you haven't made a decision, and you like maybe have more flexibility and like, whoa, what's our next adventure? Where are we going to live together? What city should we go to? You haven't started a business. You don't have your own children and grandchildren. It could be easier to have people from all
Yeah.
over the country. He said, but once you have people that are business owners, established professionals, people that have children, family, maybe or even sandwiched where they have much older parents that are they want to stick by close to, and they have children and new grandchildren being born, it's difficult to expect them to be in a real relationship with somebody who lives across the country, because either one person has to completely uproot themselves, which just seems like totally a weird thing to happen when you're just settling into that, like now they're the grandma, the grandparent,
Yeah.
established, whatever person. Um, and then if you really do want an authentic relationship, long distance for long term is not a, a relationship, like,
Right. No, you're totally right. And we ask every single person when we go through casting if they would move for love. And that is the most important thing that the network wants to know. And so I wonder if it just doesn't hit you until you start to think like, is this going to actually, how is this going to actually work? Because there are some people, like, for example, it's so hard. I have kids that my kids are young. My mom doesn't see them because she lives in Charleston. It's 7 hours away, not too far. But like, it would be so much easier if we lived in the same city and if she got to see the kids all the time and she could just pop by on a Sunday for dinner. And like, that's such a nice, like, idea. But like, that's not my reality. So, like, for my life, like my mom, if my mom was going on the show, she's married, she's not going on the show. But if she was going on the show, like that wouldn't be a consideration for her if she lives in 7 hours away in Charleston, or if she lives 7 hours away in Chicago, and her, she met someone in Texas, like that could be totally no big deal because it's already kind of the same
yes,
situation. But if you are established and you do have the grandkids and the older parents and the family and like, all your friends, like that's the thing too. Like when you're older, you have these special friends that you've had for 40, 50 years who, there's now you guys are all at the point in your life where it's like, those are your people that you do life with because like,
yeah,
especially when you're older, you're going to, I mean, pickleball, whatever, like
yeah,
church together and have lunches. My mom goes to like, she's like, I have my ladies group today and I have my lunch today and so I'm always like, well, mom, I would love for you to move here. But then I'm like, she's never going to move to me because she's like, has her ladies group and her lunches and her, you know, life.
right.
So it's like, and you make friends and it is hard. So I wonder if that is a thing where it needs to be closer or it needs to be someone that's totally like very flexible, like easy breezy. Because like, yeah, even last season with like a Leslie, like, is she going to leave her farm with all of the animals
I
and her
thought about that.
kids?
I was like, there's
Yeah.
no way. I was like, this is her life and what she
No.
loves to do.
Yeah.
She's not going to leave this. And I was like, this is, I remember that very vividly being like, when I
Yeah.
was watching that in the hometown, I was like, well, she's not leaving this. So is he just going to move to the farm? I don't think so. I was like, I don't know about this one.
Right.
And then Teresa and Gary did say that having to leave their family
Yes.
to pick a place and live together was their ultimate demise, that they did care for each other a lot, but it just wouldn't work. So this is like a very good thing to see if they end up changing this up, especially for this demographic, because Pascal
Yeah.
did nail it in this interview. He said, when you are still discovering yourself and ready for adventure, and you're gonna start your new business, or you just graduated school, or you're gonna figure out what big city do I want to move to. The Bachelor or Bachelorette is a lot easier as a young person than
Hmm.
somebody who just completely has roots, and it's just completely unrealistic to get them to
Yeah.
to get rid of that. So we'll see.
Yeah. And I guess like it's something that when I look back and think about the conversations I had with people when I do when I like pre-interview them or just talk to them about different things, I think it is, and I don't think anyone really even thinks about it because
It
it's,
doesn't hit you what it really
it
means. Yeah.
doesn't hit you. No. And no, and it doesn't. And it's you, and I think you get lost in the idea of the romance behind it and this, that, and the other thing. But you know what they do? That's why they do Love is Blind in areas because they want
Yes.
to make sure that those two people could actually work out in the real world because they assume that like unless you're driving distance that you're not most people can't or won't leave because we're as humans our whole goal is to like keep everything the same. Like we don't like change is like
Right.
scary, it's something different, it's and the older we get the less change we like as
Well, in
humans,
two
so
weeks to know who she picks. It seems like it's chalk and they're false flagging us
okay.
with the guy stuff, but that's a good pivot to Love is Blind, because you're right.
Yes.
Because on Love is Blind, the only or two there were two successful couples, but the most successful obvious couple, Garrett and Taylor, they were having,
Mm-hmm.
their only problem was that she wanted to move to San Diego. And then they ended up disclosing during the reunion that they completely ended up, that didn't happen. They realized how difficult that
I
was going to
love
be,
them.
and that they're looking for a home in Washington, D.C.,
Yeah.
because they realized that it was unrealistic, and then their lives are there and their people are there. And that,
Yeah.
yes, her parents are in San Diego, I believe. So they're going to visit them and be a little bit more, she said they're going to have some sort of bi-coastal stuff, but they realized their roots because of their friends, their work, their family, like exactly what you're saying. It was much bigger challenge. Even like they did it to be local for people that were
Mm-hmm.
going to be around the DC area. And then you had the one person who actually thought about leaving it. That was like the point of contention. And then even though he agreed to it because he loved her that much, like, yeah, I'll leave. In the end, it ended up being like, no, it is too difficult. We should stay in the DC area. So like it just goes to prove what you said even
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
Well, no, 100%. But also, since you're talking about Garrett and Taylor, okay. Did you love their Zoolander glow up? Because I was dying.
Yes. First of all, he
Like,
does look like, I never thought he was like that attractive personally. He's not an ugly guy, but
mhm,
just not.
right.
But I was
Right.
like, oh, he did have a glow up, and then she had like the
Yes.
bubble like fembot thing on and the hair sleek back, and
Oh
it
my
was
God. It was amazing.
a glow up. They both looked amazing, but it was
I
funny.
love,
So
yeah.
like they were the most like everyday regular. He's like, I'm a scientist and she's not that. And
Yes.
then they came out like, I mean, everybody came out kind of showing out, like looking up, but their glow up was just like so almost unexpected, because you just thought
Yes.
they were going to continue
Totally
doing these science
unexpected.
geeks and like whatever. And he comes out and he's been modeling now, and she's been doing things like that, and she's wearing like a bustier with a thing, and it's just like completely
Oh
like
my
I was,
gosh.
yeah, it was awesome. I
I
was
was,
living.
and it was amazing. And also, I was like, their stylist needs to be paid extra because this is just like the thing that everyone's going to talk about too, which we
Yes.
are, of course. Because I was this like, it was so unexpected. And this look, especially on Garrett, I was like, wow, like I didn't ever look at him like that. And
Me
it was
neither.
just like, I'm kind of surprised. And it makes me like them even more. I truly think that I loved their chemistry during the reunion. I thought they had, it seems like they're a very well established, good couple. So, like, even though we have a hot mess of a season and a reunion show, that was a very good. like nice package that we got from them.
It's Jonny Fairplay, reality TV icon, Survivor Hall of Famer, and I'm talking today about Work Money. Work Money is a non-profit organization that focuses on lowering costs and raising incomes for all Americans to make American life more affordable and American families more economically secure. They provide products, services, perks, benefits, tips, and tools to help members improve their financial lives. It's time to level up and make more money in this economy. We're talking getting rich. Now, this sweepstakes is giving away $50,000. You can use this to pay your rent, your mortgage. Imagine what you can do with all the money that you'll save. Now, this is put on by Work Money, and this site has all these sick benefits, and it's free. Go sign up right now and get more rich. Now, listen, you can change your life. Now, what would you do if you didn't have to pay your rent or mortgage for a year? Listen, sign up right now for free. Link is available right here in the show notes. Check them out. Personally, I'd get more pinball machines. I'm Jonny Fairplay. I wouldn't lie about that. It's Work Money. More money.
But
Yes.
dude, that reunion was explosive. I was like, what is wrong with these people?
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I mean, okay, first of all, the letter that Nick wrote, like, why did he, how did Hannah even find that letter? Did he give that to her?
No, so he said he just had a notebook full of that he
Yeah.
brought with him that contained just like life notes, life goals, whatever, and that he left it out. And he said he didn't care if she read it. And I have a different take. I think that if you know that you're possibly going to be cast on Love is Blind or any show, I know it sounds worse on Love is Blind because it's dating. But if I'm going to be
Yeah.
cast on Big Brother and I want to manifest something, I might write down I'm going to be the biggest star that was ever on Big Brother. You know, I'm going to
Yeah.
win Big Brother, whatever it is, that is what you want to manifest. And he says, I had three different, I was working with a coach. They told me to write down three things that were my main goals. You know, one was related to his business. The other was related to him being in shape. And the other was related to what was happening. He said, we're at the end of this process. We did not know if we'd be chosen yet. He said, this was the 2 weeks before they were cast, and he wanted to manifest getting there. So I think he was more
Yeah.
vilified for that because he hadn't even been chosen yet. So if you want to manifest getting on Love is Blind, you're not just going to say like, I want to be on Love is Blind. You want a clear vision of like, I'm going to get on this show and I'm going to
Right.
make my mark. I'm not just going to the pods. I'm going all the way. It's, you know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that is, maybe that means he wasn't there to find love. Maybe it means he was open to it, but also wanted to make a career of it.
Yeah.
But I don't really have any problem with that. Wasn't the shocker or the big like smoking
No.
gun of anything. Now, do I think that he does just say what people want him to say? Yes. Do I think he was telling all the girls the same stuff in the pods? Yes. Do I think that he's fake because he does not truly have a fully formed personality of himself, so he just says what people want to hear? Absolutely. So I don't even think he's necessarily a villain. I think that he does tell people what they want to hear and is not sure who he even is or what he wants out of his own life. So
Yeah.
that's why he's that way. And then he decided
He
I want
just
to
needs to like grow up. Yeah. He needs to grow up. And in general, like, I take it as like a self-worth kind of thing, like not like a self-confidence thing. It's like more of like a self-worth, because like self-confidence, you can be like confident about, you know, everything that like your successes and your looks, but like a self-worth thing is like deeper. And so I feel like that he just doesn't have, like, he just doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't have that big self-worth that's already built up, which you need to have before you can get in a relationship.
Yeah, that's true. Right. And if
It's like you
are spinning your wheels and you're just starting in real estate because you left you left
right.
football and you're not tracking very well in real estate and you're still living with your parents and you don't know who you are yet and you're not sure where your life is going. And all of a sudden, one of the biggest opportunities in the world, one of the biggest shows
Yeah.
internationally is being put in front of you. That's direction, you know. So to him, it does go to
Yeah.
that self-worth. So he's like, oh my gosh, I'm being possibly given one of the biggest opportunities in the world. And like, yeah, it could be about finding love and the love of my life. And we get spin-off shows and we get married, whatever. Or yeah, I want to be the biggest star for me. I have no problem with it whatsoever. And if Netflix didn't want people that wanted to be stars, they wouldn't cast people with so much drama as we've seen in this season. So yeah,
My
there's
God,
people.
isn't that the truth?
Yeah, so
I mean, that's the truth.
it's like read
And
the
then
room.
also, right, read the room. But we talked about this last week because we said we thought that literally the Netflix people, or the not Netflix, but the people that go on Love is Blind are literally going on at this point because they want to be famous. So, like, tell me, Hannah, that you didn't have that in the back of your mind, that you didn't want to, like,
Absolutely.
and this is their main goal. I guarantee, I don't cast for the show, but I guarantee every single person that goes into the casting room, their main goal is to, like, make it through the pods so they go to Mexico so that they
Absolutely.
can go back to hometowns. Because if you don't, then you're off the show. And none of them are going on this show to get cut before
No, you don't
pods.
give
You
up
know what
that
I
much time
mean?
of your life and go through that stress
Uh-uh.
unless you're,
Mm-mm.
want more time on it. And like, I understand
You
that there's
want to be on the show.
I'm a person I genuinely, like would love to like, be in love and have my soulmate and be living with them and get married and do all those things. So two things can be true at once. You can want that and
Yeah.
also realize like if I'm gonna put myself through Love is Blind in the pods, then I better make it worth it. Like even if there's somebody
Yeah.
I'm sure about, I better be like, yep, let's go all in and make it worth it and even see. Because as other people, some of the people that did have some wisdom did say, look, Jessica from season 1, when they asked her,
Yeah.
said, look, you get to learn so much about yourself, the way you behave in a relationship. Even if you don't find the right person, it's worth it not only to do the pods, but to just go for it with somebody through the experience. Because even though mine didn't work out, I learned how to be in a relationship and I knew what I wanted and what I didn't want. And now she's happily married to someone with a family and whatever. So
Yeah.
I can see
And
that.
she was the villain
Yeah, that exactly. So it's and almost like, a villain because of personality, but also because of so many different
because
things.
she didn't pick him. But, like, by the way, like, who would have picked that guy? Like,
Yeah,
only another 22-year-old.
right.
like,
It's so
like he was
true.
not ready either
Right.
when we met him on the show, and she was so much at such a different level from that guy. I don't even remember his name, but like,
I don't even remember him either.
yeah, I just remember that she was like the villain of the season for like not wanting to be with him, and it was like, why would
Right.
you want to be with that guy? But
Speaking of
but
villains,
no,
I keep going. I didn't
right.
interrupt.
No, I was just gonna say, but I felt like we learned so much more about the season 2 in this reunion because I felt like they almost outed production. Like, okay, so so I'm confused because Ashley was talking about how they're hiding from the cameras. They didn't want stuff to be getting out. So I was like, I felt like, remember, because I told you that
What we
I
talked
heard
about
from
last.
Bartiz that, yeah,
Yeah.
what we talked about last week, that they come in like, hey, we're filming on a Tuesday and, you have to be there like a whole day, take off from work, instead of like paying them because they're not even getting paid to do stuff. So it's like, I feel like at that point, they could have those other discussions where it's like, and production could be like, we need some drama. We need some of this. We need some of that.
Mhm.
Like, let's talk about this. So I kind of wonder,
It was
like,
speaking of villains,
yes,
Tyler, who ended up becoming the worst villain because he has the 3 secret kids and didn't tell her and
right.
lied to her. And then we find out that they had the complete discussion. He actually did disclose all the
Yes.
things. And then because it was something that needed to have some sort of representation on camera, they knew they were filming the next day. So they were like, let's talk about this in a limited way, just so it's
Hmm.
established, hey, I have kids. Hey, I struggled with it, but
Yeah.
not the real, very emotional, very long conversation that they had where he revealed all and they already gotten through it. So they decided that, and I get it, to protect the kids'
And there's
privacy.
kids yeah, exactly. There's kids involved.
Yeah. And then the internet takes it and goes, oh my God, what a villain. He didn't tell
Yeah.
her. And she doesn't even know the whole of it, assuming that. And that is a television production or a flaw of the show, is that you think you're seeing their whole relationship on camera and you're not, because they have entire days they can spend together with no filming. So you don't know that
Hmm.
she knows everything and that they're just saying this now. So they're throwing a bone basically to people. So in case it comes out on the internet or case whatever, that like it's brought up. And also because production does probably know they've had some sort of discussion. So now they have to talk about it on a camera, but they're doing it delicately to protect the identities of the three children, to protect the mother and the, who he had these children with, and that she knows all, but instead it ends up like ruining everyone. The kids' birth certificates are being posted online, private information.
Oh my gosh.
But the other women are being everyone's private information. Everyone's calling her dumb, ignorant, like stupid, like all these things. And she's like, and I have to sit through this, not because we made a decision together just to discuss it, that it was a problem, but not to protect the privacy of others, to keep it limited. And then I have to sit a whole year of people telling me how naive and dumb I was, and that he was still lying to my face when I already knew everything the day before we even filmed that. Was like, I'm so glad they had the reunion to clear it up, but she had to wait a whole year for the reunion the internet articles from even like professional magazines.
Well, it's the biggest story from the show.
Yeah, and for them to dive into it without examining. Now, I know that they had no way of knowing that they had the discussion before and that they had that discussion for camera. But if you're I've covered reality TV for a very long time. If you're not going to ask, is there something, and not point out, like we pointed out last week before we even found out that they had this discussion, that they have limited filming, and that they don't really live together the whole time. Some of them choose to, some of them don't, and that they film on specific days. There's a lot of things that we don't see, and that they don't even have that. Some people don't have the time to bond because they're not together, and then other things we just don't see. So we get confused because there's such like limited days and specific like scheduled day of filming that it just is like, for Love is Blind to be a more authentic experience, or I guess Love is Blind was probably eating up the drama and eating up all the press they got from it, but there's real lives there. There's 3 kids. There's a single mom. There's Tyler, and then there's for Ashley, who everyone is saying is like the stupidest woman in America, getting played by a guy when like everything was all settled and okay. And
who she's like married to, by the way. It's like it's like so frustrating because like it's like at this point she's obviously sticking with him. So like, why are these internet trolls like harassing her? And it's so frustrating. I agree. I don't know. I hate because I too, when I read this story, I read it. It's like the biggest story from the show. So I read it on the internet and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she would be with him. She's so dumb. Like, I think we said that both last week. We are like, she's so dumb, but there's probably something else we don't know. Yeah. And like, now we found out there is something else we don't know, but we think that way because we work in television. But like, average people probably don't think that way. And we forget people forget that these are real stories, real people. Like, so it's interesting. So I think that they're probably going to be. Yeah.
Even when you're filmed 24/7, like you and I both were, people don't realize The Apprentice is filmed 24/7 the way Big Brother is, but Big Brother's meant to be that way. When you're filmed 24/7 and they have to pack something into a 48-minute, if you consider the commercials, there's no commercials on Netflix, so maybe you get a full hour episode. You're not going to get everything. So that's one aspect of it. You're not going to see everything that did happen. And then when you're not filming, then once they get home, you're only filming on scheduled days. You're not going to get everything that's happening because the cameras aren't there either. So that like this show has its challenges with that, but also this is something for an audience to be cognizant of, is that like you're seeing selected storylines that are condensed, not necessarily because producers are trying to be evil and manipulative, because they have to create a cohesive show with a storyline based on what was shown on camera, and then throw it together, package it, and have it be a storyline that lasts. So you're not,
and they have to have a story. That's the biggest thing. Like you're saying, a storyline. Like that's literally what it is. They have to tell a story in 1 hour. And it has to make sense throughout the whole series. Yeah. So, like, there's no way for them, especially because they have 8 couples or however many couples they had this season where they were, like, made it to Mexico. It was 8 or 10 or something. It was, like, 6. 8, right? 6. Okay. So 6 couples that made it to Mexico. I mean, that's still a lot of couples to cover, right? So, like, we're still going to see only select things. Like, the conversations in the pods, I remember I asked how long those last, because you think in your head, like, oh, they're probably 30 minutes. No, like, they're like
Some are
in
6
the pods for hours. Yes, just talking to one person, and you see like 20 minutes of someone saying like the same thing. So like Nick could have said the same thing to like, yes, he did. Like it's creepy, but he could have said the same thing after 6 hours, and they still take that little snippet
Yeah.
and make it seem like that was the opening line, you know? So it's like editing plays in a lot to these shows.
Yeah. It's a
I
good takeaway
mean,
for the audience to realize that you don't truly know the people on the show. You don't truly know
right.
everything that happened. You don't know the full story ever on any show, simply because it would be impossible for you to know that. So take
Impossible.
that into
Yeah.
consideration. Now, there are other people, and I will give the exception right here would be Creeper of the Season, Steven, who went to the sleep
Oh, yeah.
study. And they at least showed a picture that he was at the sleep study, but his eyes are all crazy, so he does look like he was drunk. And then was
Yeah.
sexting a girl that he claimed that he just started, but she said, no, your messages went back weeks. Then he was like, you're right, you're right. So he got caught lying again right there at the reunion about saying that they just had, he never met her in person, he claims. We don't know if that's true or not. But then he claims that she just randomly messaged him that day. And then she's like, nope, because I saw your messages and they went back for like weeks to months. Then he was like, oh yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. So like, in one case, even though we don't know his full story or what his trauma or his deal is, we do at least
But
know
he
that
didn't.
that guy is not telling the truth and is a super
Not
creep.
telling the truth. Yeah, because he didn't want to share anything with us. He was like, you guys aren't going to listen to anything I say. It's
But
like,
then he said
yeah, if you tell the truth.
first he said for her privacy, the other person's
Yeah.
privacy, I won't tell you what was in the messages. Then when people kind of were like, he pivoted to, well, you won't believe it anyway, which is the liar,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so like, while we don't know his full story, how we got there, we know that about him at least is true.
Yeah, we don't need to know his full story. We just know that he is creepy. And he also, like, I also was like, why is he going back on everything that he said? Like, oh, I deleted the text messages. Oh, I never read them. Oh, I never deleted. I never delete any messages. It's just like,
because when you lie that much, you forget what you lie about. I think it's that extensive with him. I think that person is like, you know, has so much going on, at least with, I have no idea about, like, I'm not going to diagnose him with anything, but I can at least say that you don't need a diagnosis to know that somebody is lying and lies about a lot of things.
Everything.
So you
Yeah.
can't keep track of it. You can't even remember.
No. But also I felt like he just wasn't a good match for anyone.
No, for anyone. And then Monica got a raw deal, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And he sucks. So
yeah,
that's
totally.
else you could argue.
Well, what did you think about Ramsey's?
Okay, so I think Ramsey's like is just, you know, I think that he was very unfair to Marissa in that he kept up and then didn't tell her till the end, and then he made it about her energy, like she's too much. Throwing her under the bus, like her energy's too much for him. And look, that could be his truth, but the way he said it took away his accountability of anything. And then the one time he decided to finally get accountable, he said, okay, if it's time to actually be accountable, was just to confirm that Nick had said something negative about Hannah's looks, but he couldn't be accountable to Marissa at all. He just refused.
No.
Marissa's mom's like, I was going to punch him in the throat. And I was like,
yes, literally. I like that too. And I felt like the whole time that, like, because I liked them. And then I was like, well, they're just not meant to be. And like, some people just aren't. But then like in this reunion, I was like, what? Why are you coming? He came across so bad. I was just like, what is wrong with him? Like, it was like he went home and watched the show and got like worse. I don't know.
It seems just like they had their differences, so they were able to focus on like differences in politics or differences in the way that they view things. But the real deal was that he also just wasn't feeling it as much, but was like was unwilling to tell her, and maybe a little bit more arrogant and gross, and didn't want to appear that way. So like tried to make himself almost like the victim, which he also kind of tried to do on stage and clarify. He made himself come across terribly, and made so many different choices in the way he phrased things, in the way that there was like no apology. There was no understanding of how that would make her or any other person feel. There was no self-reflection. It seemed like he just seemed like an arrogant, like it was, I don't know. I feel for everyone that ever goes on reality TV because I understand being
Yeah.
judged. But at the same time, it's like, don't double down on the negative things that people are
I
going to judge you
know.
for. And
And don't be like, the reunion is a time for you to be like a little feisty, but like also like more honest, where it's like, look, we just didn't work out. Like
yeah,
we just had, it was too different. Like if you need to throw a little bit of shade, like throw a little shade, but then be like at the end, like don't make your, like, don't just like, I don't know. It just, he seemed like, I just didn't like how he was acting toward Marissa. And I just thought it was like, it was
yes,
just not, I didn't like it.
it wasn't
And
necessary.
then no, it wasn't necessary. That's what it is. Exactly. It wasn't necessary. Like, it wasn't a good reunion thing. But then, okay. And what about Brittany? And what was it? What's his name? I cannot think of it right now.
Leo.
Leo. Yes. So I was like, then when they came on, I was like, okay, we already knew that that was never going to work out. But
Yeah,
like, we never got the closure on why it didn't work out because they didn't show that. So then instead of talking, it was weird because instead of like them covering why they didn't work out, they made it about him with the other relationships. And so I didn't understand why the Nick and Vanessa did that, because I felt like they should have asked more questions about their own personal like issues,
right.
right?
And
Did you
what's
notice that?
weird, they usually don't talk about production, but instead, this is the one
Right.
time they pivoted to production and said, "Why don't you
Yeah.
think you were chosen by production?" So I was like, "This is so weird." Usually, they don't want to touch the fact that production exists with a 10-foot pole. So instead, they say, "What was it that just made you guys not really work out, or do your own thing, then decide you didn't work out, or why aren't you compatible?" And instead, we're like, "Why don't you think? Why do you think production made the
Yeah.
decision not to put you guys together?" Which I think they answered very well and said, because they could just tell it wasn't going to work out. We were interested, but we weren't the strongest couple there. We were the weakest link, they said, and we knew it.
Yeah.
So I think that in her mind, she's thinking, can't wait to go on Perfect Match or whatever, or in Leo too or something.
Oh, I literally thought with that dress that she was thinking that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Which I don't hate her. She looked amazing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't hate her for that.
I love her. I think she's great. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting and great that they're still good friends and talk all the time. If the show is
Yeah.
big, that's great and fun, and I like that. I love that for them.
Me too. I don't see Leo on Perfect Match. Especially after his answer
Maybe
with like
he's strange. I
comparing
don't know.
women to food, and he's too strange. And like the way that he talks and his mannerisms, I just don't see him on Perfect Match. But I definitely see her on Perfect Match. Like she is 100% going ready to go. That little dress of hers, her little, I don't know, just everything about her. I wonder if she already got the call because she's very excited.
Yeah,
So she probably did. I don't know. I feel like we have some good people this year for Perfect Match. Like from Love is Blind, we have some really like hotties from The Mole.
yep. Oh,
I
and now
think
we
I'm
know
trying to.
though that we have another Love is Blind coming up pretty soon. Valentine's
Yeah.
going to premiere Love is Blind 8, which they announced. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty quick. So,
Hmm.
but I
Well,
guess
and
not.
Love is Blind Argentina starts next week.
Yeah. So we have a lot more like love and a lot more of that stuff to discuss.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see if Love is Blind 8 is as messy and chaotic as this one is. And we don't have that long to wait. It's just February. So
I know. I bet it's not. Because there was a lot of couples in the front row.
yeah, they had people there. And the fact that they're even showing people and teasing it means that maybe stuff is either
Yeah.
leaked or people are still together and it's, so I'm
I'm
interested.
thinking they're still together. I'm
Yeah.
interested too. I'm interested to learn about them. And I'm interested to see who the Perfect Match season will be, because I like to like think about who they're going to put on. And what do we have? We have The Mole, we have The Circle, we have Love is Blind. What else do we come? Who else do they pull from?
Married at First Sight, rarely, but they have had
Right.
somebody else from there. Yeah.
Is that really who they pull from the most? Oh, well, they could pull from Squid Games.
Yeah.
They could, because they pulled from Squid Games. Didn't the one hot guy go from the last
Yes.
season? Wasn't he on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Player 596 or whatever his name was. So they have some good ones. And then that other new show that they did that was like a big fail, but it was still like we all talked about it.
Right. They have one
although-
that really interesting. Some of them speak English. It's a show that's completely in Korean and dubbed over, but some speak English.
Oh,
It's called like The Influencer, and it's like Korea's 100 biggest influencers
ooh,
have to go there and compete for, and they show you like behind the scenes of how
I
they.
haven't watched it.
It's so interesting, and a couple of them do speak English. So it's possible that one of them might show up on Perfect Match. I don't know, because they have like millions. Some of
Ooh,
them have millions of followers across all of Asia, and then they're competing against others that only have like 20,000. But some of them, it's just
oh,
cool the way they show
wow.
different reality in real time. If you post something, what reactions are? It's filmed in real time, and it's fascinating show. So I recommend people check it out. I don't remember if
The
it's called
influencer? I'm gonna watch it.
The Influencer or Influencer, but if you look up Korean influencer show Netflix, you will find it.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now so we can tell it. The influencer Netflix.
And make sure you say Korean though, because I think there was another
Yeah,
influencer one that didn't go so well. That was non-Korean.
the influencer Netflix. It's called The Influencer.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. It's just called The Influencer. Cool. I can't wait to watch it.
It's a fun show.
Yeah. I love how I just love all their new like reality. I don't know. I think Netflix does do good reality. Like everyone said they weren't going to do good reality, and I think they are doing pretty good reality. So I'm into it. You know who I want to see more reality TV is from Amazon, and I worked for that. I like do my Amazon Lives or whatever, but I want more. They do a lot of game shows, and I want to see more like reality TV coming from Amazon because
Yeah.
they I feel like there's like a lot of stuff they could be doing, but I don't think that they're picking. I don't know. Reality, like there's some other shows I've heard of recently coming down the loop. Oh, I'm casting. I meant to say I'm casting the show. I'm not casting. I'm working on the casting team. It is called the Quiz Show with Balls for Fox, and it's a game show. And the contestants are going to get to compete a family of 5 each episode, Jen, with so 2 families compete $100,000 each episode. And they are going to get to go to film, or well, maybe I don't know if I'm actually supposed to say that where they're filming. It's filming internationally, and it's super epic. It's a really fun show. It's on Fox. It's going into season 2, so
That
it's going to
sounds
be very
fun.
fun.
So
Yeah.
what is we can wrap this up with tell people where to find you so they can actually get in touch
Yes.
with you if they want to be cast on this. Where does everyone find you?
Yeah. So find me at Rachel E. Reilly Viegas on Instagram, at Rachel Reilly Viegas on TikTok, and those are my main ones now.
Got it. Well, I'm Jenn Hoffman. Hi on Instagram if you want to follow me there. Also, please watch us. You go to youtube.com/after show and subscribe to the channel so you get more reality queens every week, as well as a variety of other shows. This was so much fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing if Joan picks Chalk or if we're being false flagged. I don't know if we're being like double false flagged or what's going on with Guy, but we will be back to discuss when we know with more as well as other shows.
I can't wait to find out. We have the Men Tell All, and then we have the finale part 2. So we'll see. We'll see. We shall see.
Yes.
Yay!
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.